How's it going, fight fans? Welcome to Mindful Combat. If you're new to the platform, my name's Rohan and this is my channel where I do MMA and boxing related content. And if you're new here, I need you to hit the subscribe button, check out the conversation in the comment section below, share out the video if you've got any fight friends or family that are fight fans, and check out my content. If you like the content, then like it. Also, before I move on, so I'm going to be doing a main card picks in this video for your upcoming card on UFC ESPN 5. The main event I won't be breaking down in this video because I've done an in-depth one fight breakdown on the main event. If you haven't checked it out already, I'm going to link it in the description below. Definitely check it out and give me some feedback on that. And for those of you guys who did check it out, well, thank you, UGs. Anyways, I'm going to be going through the main card on the upcoming UFC on ESPN 5 card. Like I said, and I'm going to be giving quick picks on some of the cards. I'll be honest with you, this is not a card that I'm super excited for because there's not really any key fights that jump out at me, but still there's some fights that I suppose we should watch and some interesting prospects could come out of this card, but it's not really one of UFC's stronger cards. So this video is more for you guys than it is for me. I want to keep the content coming so you guys have some content to watch from me and just let you guys know my picks anyway. So to start off the card, we've got Darko Stosic versus Kennedy Ozenchukwu. This should be an interesting fight. I believe that it's a good fight between prospects and just to go through it a bit, they're both 27 years old. Darko's 13-2, Kennedy is 6-1 in his record. Darko's 1-1 in the UFC, whereas Kennedy's 0-1 in the UFC. Darko stands at 6 foot. Kennedy is significantly taller than him at 6'5", and he's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage over him with an 83-inch reach, and Darko's got a 76-inch reach. So that's a significant size advantage. Darko's coming off a loss to Devin Clark, and Kennedy's coming off a loss to Paul Craig. But I must say, in his fight with Paul Craig, Kennedy did impress me. He showed me some good skills. He showed me he's dangerous, he's powerful, he can hit hard. The only problem is Paul Craig is a dangerous dude. He's super dangerous off his back and his guard, and that's where Kennedy found himself. And I believe, more than anything, in that fight, his biggest flaw was his inexperience that Paul Craig was able to expose. And Paul Craig's done that before with another talented light heavyweight prospect in Magomed Ankalaev. And I don't think that this knock is too much for Kennedy. Actually, I believe it's a great learning opportunity. Losses don't really define a fighter to me. How they respond from it is a great learning opportunity. I feel like he should have learned coming into this fight. Darko's a talented fighter in his own right, but I'll be honest, I don't see that he has the skills necessary to get by Kennedy. I think Kennedy's impressed me more of the two. I believe that his stand-up is going to be the difference. His size, strength, explosiveness, and stand-up should be able to get him the win. At the stage of their careers, obviously can never be certain, but I'm going to pick Kennedy to win the fight for the opening of the card. Moving on, we've got a fight of two female prospects. The 27-year-old Hannah Goldie, who makes her UFC debut off Dana White's Contenders, and she fights Mirinda Granger, who's also 27 years old. Hannah is 5-0, Mirinda is 6-0, so they're both young fighters, both young in their careers, and I'll be honest, I don't believe that this should be on the main card of the UFC on ESPN card, but it is. So we got to give it the respect it deserves, and it does. It is going to bring out a future potential, maybe a breakout star or future talent for the division, and help crowd out the division, which is never a bad thing. So I suppose this is a fight that does deserve some attention. So Hannah, she's 5-0 as a pro, but she went 3-1 as an amateur. Because they're so new in their careers, I do want to look at the amateur fights as well. Then you got Mirinda, who's 6-0 and went 5-0 as an amateur. So she's got that slight edge in experience, which I believe should make a little bit of a difference. Mirinda's also a little bit bigger than Hannah. She stands at 5'7". Hannah's 5'4", and Hannah's got a 61-inch reach. I couldn't actually find Mirinda's reach, but I believe it's around 62 or 63 inches from the non-credible sources that I've seen. So unless the source is credible, I don't really like to use that, but it's just what I've heard, so take it as you will. I won't put too much weight on that. Anyways, both of these girls are young. They're both interesting prospects, and I suppose the winner of this fight is going to be in an interesting position, and hopefully they get a chance to develop and they're not rushed along. But I believe that Mirinda should be able to utilize her experience to get her into the win here, and I believe she's shown a more all-round game. But it's, like I say, generally it's not a fight that I'm too vested in, but I'll check it out anyway, and you guys should as well. Moving on, we've got Trevin Giles, the 26-year-old, taking on a veteran in the UFC, in Gerald Meerschaert, who's 31 years old. Trevin Giles is 1-1. He's 2-1 in he's 11-1 with a record of 2-1 in the UFC. He's coming off a loss to Zach Cummins, but before that he had impressed me with wins over Antonio Braga Neto, and actually on the regional scene he's beaten Ryan Spann, who's doing good things at 205 right now. He fights Gerald Meerschaert, who's 29-11, vastly more experienced. He's 4-3 in the UFC. He's actually coming off 2 straight losses coming into this fight. Gerald Meerschaert stands at 6'1" with a 77.5-inch reach, and he fights Trevin Giles, who's 6 foot and has a 74-inch reach. So he's a little bit smaller, but not significantly. Gerald Meerschaert is a much more experienced commodity coming into this fight, and his losses have been to guys like Thiago Santos and Jack Manson. Obviously his last loss was to Kevin Holland, but the fact that he's had that world level experience and 40 professional fights does make me kind of lean on him, especially when you consider Trevin Giles. He's had a rookie 12 fights, and he's had 1 fight in the last 3 years. Inactivity does matter to me. I do consider that a problem, and coming into this fight I've got to kind of lean on Gerald Meerschaert. Funny enough, I was gonna pick Trevin Giles to get the win, but I feel like just in discussing it, I've kind of changed my mind on this one. And like I say, I'm not sold on this fight. It's kind of a 50-50 fight for me. Trevin Giles can get the win here. All these fights are kind of close, to be honest with you. Like I'm not sold on none of the fights on this card. This card is about as 50-50 as a card I've ever seen. Maybe, like, I mean, for example, the fights with Hannah Goldie and Marinda, I'm not really that familiar with them, but these two gentlemen I am familiar with, and I'm going to pick Gerald Meerschaert to get the win here. I just believe that his experience and having been in the ring with the better fighters should guide him to victory. He's still a young man at 31 years old, and I'm very interested to see how this fight plays out. Anyway, moving on, we've got a much more interesting fight. We've got the fight between Joaquim Silva, who's 30 years old, and he takes on the young 23-year-old Nasrat Haqparsad. So this should be really interesting. Joaquim stands at 5'8", and that makes him 2 inches shorter than Nasrat, who is 5'10". 2 inches shorter is not a huge disadvantage, but it is something worth noting. He's going to have 3-inch reach disadvantage though, because Joaquim Silva has a 69-inch reach and Nasrat has a 72-inch reach. Joaquim is 11-1 coming into this fight with a record of 4-1 in the UFC, coming off 1 straight win after his loss to Vince Pichel. And he fights Nasrat, who's 10-2 with a record of 2-1 in the UFC, and he's on a 2-fight win streak. His last fight actually got fight of the night. So both had some great fights. This is actually a real good fight. I think this is going to be a fun one to watch. Going to be definitely entertaining and pleasing to the fans. I believe that Nasrat's got some sort of star potential, and that's why UFC is starting to kind of use him. He's obviously he comes from Afghan background, and I believe that that's a market that really UFC hasn't tampered into. So it's just some historical context on that real quick. The Afghan community has always been very vested into martial arts. Definitely Taekwondo. They've had some guys win bronze and silver Olympic medals in the Olympics in Taekwondo, and I believe Sial Bahadur Azar had a huge following from the Afghan community. Obviously he failed to live up to potential, but I do feel like there is a market there to be had, maybe not actually in Afghanistan but around the world. The Afghan community will be paying attention. I know he's got the Afghan community is paying attention to Nasrat right now, so I believe that they want to use him, and I believe that this is an interesting matchup and kind of a favourable matchup when you look at their style. So I'm going to lean on Nasrat to be able to get the win here and move forward in the division. He's actually a real interesting prospect, but if he was to lose to Joaquim Silva at 30 years old, he's not old either, and with a record of 11-1 coming into this, if he beats a good prospect, he's got to be considered. He needs to be getting some attention as well, and it's a good fight. I'm going to pick Nasrat to get the win here. Moving on, we've got the co-main event of the night, which is between two very respected veterans and two guys that I think a lot of because of everything that they've done in the division. So you've got Jim Miller, who's 35 years old, and he fights Clay Guida, who's 37 years old. Two veteran fighters here now, and especially when you're considering that they're fighting at 155, that's probably a little older than if they were, say, a heavyweight. Jim Miller comes into this fight with a little bit of momentum. Actually, they're both coming into this fight with a little bit of momentum. Jim Miller's won his last fight, and he's actually 2-1 in his last 3. BJ Penn is actually 3-1 in his last 4. I mean, he won his last fight, but I mean, his last win was over BJ Penn. And who really gives a shit about BJ Penn these days? And fucking BJ Penn's just announced he's fighting again. The fuck is going on with that shit? Does any of you want to see BJ Penn fight anymore? Why does UFC keep putting him on the card? BJ Penn versus Nick Lentz is not a good fight. Fucks. Anyways, I'm majorly digressing. So Jim Miller versus Clay Guida. Okay. Jim Miller has a 71-inch reach. Clay Guida has a 70-inch reach. Clay Guida stands at 5'7". Jim Miller stands at 5'8". They both got all-round game. I would say Jim Miller has definite advantage in the stand-up. He showed me some beautiful stand-up in his day, and he's still showing me he's got great fundamental skills on the feet. Clay Guida, he's got incredible conditioning and cardio, but I believe his skill set is more surrounding his wrestling, which is it's good. He's a great pressure wrestler. When you look at some of their key wins, there's some interesting ones to note. So Jim Miller's beating guys like, if you go way back, he's beaten Matt Wyman, Mark Bocek, he beat Charles the Bronx Oliveira, who's a guy who I think a lot of back in the days when he was a young man. He's obviously lost to him in their most recent rematch. He beat Melvin Gallard back in the day. He beat Joe Lozan twice, the first fight being an absolute war, and he beat Thiago Alves. Clay Guida's got wins over the likes of BJ Penn most recently. No one really cares no more. He beat Joe Lozan more recently. He beat Eric Koch, Tetsuya Kawajiri, Anthony Pettis back in the days when he was a WEC champion. He beat Hatsuhioki. He beat RDA, broke his jaw when he was still coming up. He's beaten Nate Diaz and he's beaten Josh Thompson. So he's got a long list of great wins. They both got veteran records as well. I didn't even say that. Jim Miller's got a record of 30 wins and 13 losses, whereas Clay Guida's got a record of 35 wins and 18 losses. This is an interesting fight, and definitely when you think of how they match up against each other, it does make you think. I feel like Clay Guida's going to come out there looking for takedowns straight away, because I feel like he's going to know that Jim Miller has an advantage on the feet. I think Jim Miller's going to be able to defend the takedowns. He's always been real good at wrestling, and I think even if it does get taken down, he's got real good BJJ, and he's still good at fundamentally to be able to be explosive and be able to get back on his feet. And he seems to be getting control of his Lyme's disease issue, which has plagued his career over the last 3 or 4 years. I believe that Jim Miller should be able to keep this one standing on the feet. I believe he enjoys a nice little advantage over Clay Guida, and I believe he should be able to ride that advantage into a decision win over Clay Guida, who has always been historically hard to finish. Obviously, you can never be certain in a fight like this, because they're both at a time in their career where they're both declining, and it's kind of crazy this fight hasn't happened before and it's happening now. But anyways, I'm up for it. Why not? It makes sense. They're both veterans. They're both on a bit of a resurgence. They're both, there's no point feeding them both to young contenders. Maybe let one of them get a little bit of a win streak going and then feed them to a young contender. No problem, do that. But this is not a bad fight. So I'm going to pick Jim Miller to get the win here. So guys, sorry if I seemed a bit disinterested in this card. It's not that disinterested, it's just where I'm not someone that can feign enthusiasm, so I'm not super excited by this card, but I still wanted to give you guys my picks and go through it all. Obviously I love MMA, and I'll be watching the card, and I'll be watching it and enjoying the card, so it's not a reflection on my personal enjoyment. This is sometimes like if you watch my Colby Covington versus Robbie Lawler in-depth breakdown, you'll see that I'm going to be a lot more engaged in that, and where I know those fighters a lot more, and I've personally invested in a lot more in them right now, actively in their careers. I'm a true lover of martial arts, and sometimes my enthusiasm is represented in which fights I see coming up more. So anyways, guys, I do hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to keep trying to keep the content coming out for you guys, and if you're new to my channel, check out some of my other content and give me some feedback on it. Let me know your picks for this card below. Thank you for watching, guys. Mindful Combat.